What's up, gamers? Get ready to dive into the wildest open-world survival experience of 2024. This game is taking things to the next level with insane graphics, hardcore gameplay, and a world that's as brutal as it is beautiful. If you're into crafting, battling, and surviving against all odds, you won't want to miss this. Let's jump in and see what this game has in store for us. Once Human is a multiplayer action game where you go head-to-head with mutants infected by space dust. It's got that sweet mix of RPG and survival elements, complete with item schematics and the chance to build your own fortress. Crafting schemes are a key part of Once Human. They unlock new gear and let you upgrade your fortress, boosting its defenses against harsh weather, adding defense turrets, or setting up power generators powered by wind, water, or solar energy. You've got tons of freedom when building your base. Think walls, passages, terraces, and fences, all placed almost wherever you want. Survival isn't just about your base, though. Your character's sanity takes a hit if you consume contaminated food or water, which means fewer health points in the long run. Nightingale is a survival game set in an open, fairy tale world with a quasi-steampunk vibe straight out of the Victorian era. Get ready to face some epic monsters while exploring gorgeous landscapes. Developed by Inflection Games, the studio founded by Aaron Flynn. In Nightingale, you dive into the action from a first-person perspective. You'll roam through magical locations in all sorts of environments, solo or with your squad, while hustling to stay alive. You'll be building shelters, setting up farms, and crafting weapons, whether it's melee or ranged, including gear inspired by 19th century blacksmiths' guns. Plus, you'll have some magical abilities up your sleeve. Along the way, you'll bump into NPCs who won't jump into the fight with you, but can hook you up with info or side quests. The fairy creatures are out to get you and will even wreck the stuff you've built. But there's a twist. You can establish peaceful relations with some of them by taming them with gifts. Discontent stirs in the underworld, and thanks to Charon, you dodged death and ended up on a lost shore, ready to be tested. To find your place in this shady plot against the gods, you start with nothing. Scavenge for resources and gear up to face the dangers of the Isles. Only then can you prove you're worthy of the bigger challenges ahead. Roam through ruins and wild lands just outside the gods' turf. With boosted movement abilities, tackle the natural obstacles of coastal cliffs, foggy forests, dark caves, and scorching sands. You'll unlock treasure and power hidden within these mythic landscapes. To survive the wild beasts and fallen, corrupted heroes before you, you'll need to level up with new recipes and upgrades. As you rack up wins across the Isles, construct and deck out epic Greek structures that even Olympus would envy. Protect yourself with custom weapon designs and armor sets crafted from the resources you gather. Only after you've tackled every challenge can you step into the forgotten crossroads and uncover the true purpose of your journey. Guided by distant voices, hunt down the Olympian shrines, complete their trials, and snatch their knowledge to break the gods' lingering grip on power. A third-person survival action game with RPG vibes. In Palworld, you're exploring a gorgeous world, catching creatures known as pals and using them in all sorts of ways. The game has both single-player and multiplayer modes. Over time, you can breed pals and even crossbreed them to create new species. You'll also come across rare and endangered creatures. Sure, capturing and selling them is illegal, but it's an easy way to make bank. Just don't get caught. How you treat your pals is up to you. The more you work them, the shorter their lifespan. Treat them well and they'll live longer, but they won't be as efficient. Palworld isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It's packed with danger, like changing weather, hostile humans, and monsters. You'll need weapons which you can craft in your factories to defend yourself. When things get dicey, you'll have to run and let your pals stay behind to slow down your enemies. Right, true to the survival genre, your character has basic needs. If you run out of food, well, one of your pals might have to take one for the team. Pacific Drive is a first-person survival game where you hit the road on the warped terrains of the northwestern coast of the USA. But it's not just a Sunday drive. Anomalies, monsters, and crazy weather patterns are out to wreck your ride. Thankfully, you can upgrade and trick out your car to handle whatever comes your way. Sometimes you gotta get out of the car. Whether it's to grab some loot or fix up the damage, it's all part of the adventure. Your ride can be heavily modded. Swap out parts, slap on some beefy armor, and deck it out with gadgets. Plus, you can style it to match your vibe. Pacific Drive spices things up with light roguelike elements. Each run is a risky, high-stakes trip, but they're relatively short, so you're back in the garage, your base, before you know it. Every time you roll out, the game randomizes elements like resources, monsters, and anomalies to keep you on your toes. Enshrouded is a TPP survival game with RPG vibes set in a fantasy world where you gotta survive and put an end to an apocalyptic mess. You can roll solo or squad up with up to 16 players. You'll gather resources to craft gear, think weapons, armor, and clothes, and build anything from cozy shacks to epic fortresses. But heads up, you won't be the only one crashing at your base. Soon enough, NPCs will show up looking for shelter, bringing unique services and items to the table. Get ready for some intense battles with a variety of monsters. You can take them down using melee weapons, archery, or even magic. Besides the usual baddies like beasts and hostile humans, you'll go up against some seriously tough bosses. As you progress, you'll level up, unlock new skills, upgrade your abilities, and take on bigger challenges. Soulmask is a sandbox survival game with RPG and strategy vibes, cooked up by the indie devs over at Campfire Studio. We're talking about a massive world spanning over 60 square kilometers, packed with tribal life and culture. The setting is a fantasy universe inspired by ancient civilizations, especially those Mayan, Inca, and Aztec legends. In Soulmask, it's all about the tribe. The entire community around you is the protagonist. You can take control of your fellow tribesmen and level them up in different paths. Want a skilled hunter, a stealth assassin, a tanky warrior? You got it. They'll need to handle everything from wild animals to rival tribes and bosses with crazy unique abilities. Plus, you'll need some experts for the grind. Hide tanning, farming, resource gathering, wood, stone, minerals, the works, and even animal breeding. Yes, mounts included. A lot of the action happens in your village, which you're constantly building up. Construct defensive walls, set traps, make spots for your tribe to sleep and work, and create those production chains. The goal? Turn your tribal HQ into a self-sufficient stronghold that's a nightmare for any enemy foolish enough to launch an invasion. Set during the golden age of piracy on the Indian Ocean, Skull and Bones puts you in the shoes of a corsair captaining his own ship. You start small, but with every sea battle you win, you build up your rep and stack up that loot. At the start, you've got just one ship, but as you level up, you'll grow an entire fleet. The ships come in different classes, each with its own vibe. Some are faster, some have longer range, and others can take more hits. You can also deck out your ship with extra gear to boost combat power or just make it look more badass. In Skull and Bones, knowing how to ride the water currents and use the wind is key. Teaming up with partners and picking the right tactics can make or break your journey. You've got to pick the right ship class for the job at hand. Aside from firing cannons, you can ram enemy ships or even board them. Boarding isn't just about brute force. You've got to position your ship just right and time it perfectly. Pull it off, and not only do you score some loot, but you might even get to patch up some battle damage. The game is set in 1917, 30 years after the first installment. The world's been frozen over due to an unexplainable climate disaster, forcing humanity into a fight for survival. The few survivors formed cities and settlements around generators, giant coal-powered heat-producing structures. One of these cities is New London, which has survived resource shortages, human conflict, and a cataclysmic event known as the Great Storm. Gameplay-wise, Frostpunk 2 expands on the original game. The core gameplay is still the same. It's a real-time strategy game where you expand your city and take care of your citizens' needs. Coal is swapped out for oil, and extracting it becomes your top priority. Run out, and the generator in the city center will shut down, leaving your people helpless against the cold. You'll need to build mining outposts, food-producing buildings, hospitals to treat sick citizens, and houses so they can crash after a hard day's work. Frostpunk 2, like its predecessor, heavily emphasizes tough moral choices. Many times, you'll have to ditch morality just to survive. You've got to find that sweet spot between pragmatism and idealism, or the city and you won't make it. Your decisions have real consequences and will shape the fate of the city. The game features several factions, each with conflicting and mutually exclusive agendas. Depending on which faction you decide to back, the game unfolds differently. The Altars has two gameplay layers. First up is managing your mobile base, which you see from the side, kind of like in This War of Mine or Fallout Shelter. Here, Jan has to handle his duties, with some help from his clones. You create these titular altars in the womb, an organic, powerful sphere. By making alternate versions of Jan, you get to tweak their pasts up until the crash landing, personalities, abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. To survive, you'll need to create altars that fit your current needs or cover any gaps in your team. Jan also has to keep good vibes with the altars, who can interact with each other, and let's be real, there's going to be some arguing. You'll need to expand the base by adding new modules, kitchens, bedrooms, labs, and other key rooms. To do this, you'll need resources, and that's where the second gameplay layer kicks in. The Altars lets you explore the surface of an alien planet. From a third-person view, you roam atmospheric areas and gather valuable resources. Some spots are off-limits due to high radiation, so if you want to stock up, be ready to grind and face some unexpected challenges. ALOFT supports both first-person and third-person perspectives. The game kicks off with character creation. At the start, we're stuck on a single island, where our mission is to gather resources essential for survival, craft useful gear, and build a base. This base is more than just a home. It can turn into a valuable asset once we transform it into a thriving farm where we can grow crops and raise animals. As we progress, we can develop new technologies and upgrades. For example, building windmills and connecting them to our machines lets us harness the wind to automate certain processes. But that's just the beginning. After we've maxed out our starting island, it's time to set our sights on more complex objectives. To reach neighboring lands, we need to build sails and mechanisms to control them, turning our island into a mobile fortress. While traveling, we need to keep an eye on the wind strength, its direction, and air currents, so adjust the sail's size and position accordingly. Watch out, many islands are plagued by a dangerous infection that covers plants and animals with mysterious fungi, turning the wildlife aggressive and savage. We'll need to gear up to stay alive, and as we advance, we can develop cures for various forms of the infection to restore islands to their former glory. This also brings us new companions, farm animals, crops, and resources. Bridges and ziplines can also connect islands, making travel between them easier. Our ultimate quest is to reach the Eye of the Storm. It's no walk in the park. The rampaging winds whip up sharp rocks and toxic spores, the area is freezing, and lightning strikes are frequent. Players need to be fully prepared before tackling this challenge. Alright, survivors, that's a wrap. This new open-world survival game for 2024 is bringing some serious heat to the genre. Whether you're a solo player or rolling with a squad, there's so much to explore and master. If you're ready to test your skills and survive the chaos, this game should definitely be on your radar. Drop a like if you enjoyed this deep dive, and let me know in the comments what you think about this epic survival adventure. Catch you in the next one. Stay sharp out there.